Electricast.
The last thing you want to hear when you need your auto insurance most is a robot with countless irrelevant menu options. Which is why with USAA Auto Insurance, you'll get great service that is easy and reliable, all at the touch of a button. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
USAA.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon Business. How can you free up your team from time-consuming office tasks? Amazon Business empowers leaders to not only streamline purchasing, but better support their teams so they can focus on strategy and growth. Free up your teams and focus on your future. Learn more about the technology, insights, and support available at amazonbusiness.com.
Welcome to Her Extraordinary Life by Design, where we celebrate women who are shaping their lives one extraordinary day at a time. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, self-care coach for women who are ready to make self-care a priority to support them in life and business. Every week, I'll be speaking with inspiring women from various walks of life who will share their personal journeys and will discover how they have fearlessly carved their own paths as business owners, passionately pursuing their dreams and creating a meaningful impact on their communities. So let's get started. Hello, and welcome to Extraordinary Life by Design podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, and today we're talking with Kristen Wonch. From $100,000 in debt to international wealth coach, Kristen was one of a handful of women to structure multi-million-dollar deals as a commodities trader. Featured in Forbes, her money mastery method is the world's first to teach women to make income leaps, manage money well, and investing profitably, while rewiring subconscious money beliefs. She has coached 300 plus women across 8 countries to build 6- and 7-figure portfolios with an approach to investing so simple a grade 4 could do it. Her top 10 ranked podcast, The Wealth Equation, reveals untold stories from 6-, 7-, and 8-figure female entrepreneurs and has topped the charts in 17 countries. Kristen, I'm excited to have you join me today, so welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's so good to be here.
I'm truly excited to have this conversation with you today, not only because of the incredible work that you're doing, empowering women around money, wealth, and financial freedom, but also because your personal story is such a powerful example of what it means to own your truth and redefine success. You know, from structuring the multi-million-dollar deals as a commodities trader to becoming a global wealth coach, your journey is anything but conventional. So, before we dive into your work and the money mastery method, I would love to rewind a bit. So can you share what led you into the world of finance and what pivotal moments shaped your decision to pivot into coaching women around wealth?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. It's been a long journey. I ended up in finance. I think I was just always a very high achiever. And so when I fell into, my corporate career out of school, I basically set my sights on the hardest career that you could possibly get into. And that at the time was investment banking. And I didn't end up getting a job in investment banking. I ended up in final rounds and landed a job as a trader shortly thereafter. It was a very similar role, but I really just I think I always set my sights on something that was very difficult. And so I was, for many, many years, I would source my self-worth from how much I was achieving. And that is really what led me into, I think, the finance and what led me into trading. And when I got into that career, I really loved a lot of things about it. It was very fast-paced. It was very, there was a lot of strategy involved. It was very much you eat what you kill. You had to be, you knew you could measure down to the dollar how good you were at your job. And so there were a lot of things about the career that I really loved. And I love numbers and I loved building relationships. And it was a very interesting career. And when I ended up getting laid off in, I think it was at the end of 2014 when oil prices started crashing. And so the pivot for me was not necessarily intentional. It was sort of this reckoning. And it's happened a few times in my life. I think sometimes the universe throws at you a choice. And it's when you're not choosing the things, you're not facing the things in your life that you should be facing, when you're not really being honest with yourself about what is and isn't working in your life. And for me, while I loved the corporate trading career and I was making insane money, I was also spending a lot of money. I had a drinking problem. I was partying all the time. The job really required it of me. So I was just making all this money and spending it all on clothes, fancy clothes and booze. And that was a life that felt exciting, but I was really just addicted to adrenaline. And it wasn't until many years later, now living in Costa Rica, that I now have the experience of what it feels like to have a an easeful nervous system, like to have a nervous system that isn't in fight or flight. And now I know the difference. And so when I left trading, it was not necessarily, this is what I'm shifting into coaching and I've just now found my purpose. It was just, oh my God, I know I can't go back to that life or nothing will change. And so I took my severance. I came down to Costa Rica for the first time. And it was the beginning of a very deep journey for me of self-inquiry and self-discovery and really looking at a lot of the things and patterns in my life and my mind that weren't working. And it was many years later, I think on the plane to Costa Rica, I actually read the book Lean In, and I realized that I was meant to change the world for women, but it would be years before I really understood how. And so many years later was when I started Women's Money Mastery and built the program that I now run. And it really is the intersection of my background in finance and my aptitude for numbers and really the ability to break things down very simply, and my own personal journey around the mindset work and really uncovering all of the beliefs and all the stories in your brain that are recreating the patterns that you say you don't want, that are getting in the way of you actually just like creating the life that you really desire. And the third piece was really just like a true and a deep need for this work. I was running into so many women over and over again telling me the same story. I'm not good with money. I'm not good with numbers. It's just not my thing. And these women, smart, successful women, telling themselves these crazy stories. It was just a mystery to me. And so that is how, I guess in a long-winded way, how I ended up from here to there, although many different things happened in between.
Yeah. One of the things I really love that you touched on was going from that adrenaline rush to that calm and ease because of, being on the plane, reading a book that really sparked your desire for your creativity to do something different. But the ease and the flow I can really relate to because that's kind of for me the same thing. Because as I told you just before we got on here, that I'm in Mexico and it really, this is my third time being in here, staying in a long extended period of time. And I found the very first time, it was like I came alive the very first time. I felt that ease and flow. And I was living in a much smaller environment here in Mexico, a town of 10,000 people. And that was small for me coming from a big city. So I completely get that when you were saying you go from that rush, that hustle environment into then all of a sudden realizing, okay, there's got to be more to life than this. And also, I love the fact that you talk about you saw a need, but what was that need? How are you going to fill that need? And it, as you said, it took you a little bit a while to get into that. And I want to actually talk about what you were just saying about especially around subconscious beliefs for women around money, success, worthiness, because I think those three are tied together. Maybe I don't feel worthy to be able to have success or to make that kind of money. So what are some of the most common money beliefs that you have seen are holding women back? And how do you help them start rewriting those narratives?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things I see for women is the deep-seated belief that them earning more is going to be a bad thing. And so they will allow themselves to get to a certain level, maybe you're at 100 grand or 200 grand and earning, but you won't allow yourself to move beyond that. And, I've seen everything under the sun from it's going to be a lot of responsibility, or in order to hit those numbers, I'm going to have to double my workload, or I'm scared about managing that much money. So if you're managing your money like a monkey at the moment, you, of course, are going to feel like it's a very heavy responsibility to manage more money because you don't view yourself as the kind of person that can handle it. And the other thing that women experience that men really don't is that as you start to earn at very high levels, like, will I be judged? Will my friends have things to say about me? Will my family be weird about it? Like, it creates complications. And the interesting thing about that in particular is that some of them are just fictitious stories in your mind that are never going to unfold, but some of them are true. Women are actually judged for earning more in a way that men are applauded. And so it is really the way that we do this work when I work with clients is uncovering these things and really becoming aware of what are you believing in your brain that is causing you to take certain actions or not take certain actions, and really understanding that you can just choose to believe anything you want and you can shift it. I'll give you an example. So a client on one of my calls this week, shows up and she's like, after last week's call, Kristen, you really triggered me. And I was like, okay, tell me more. And the coaching that I gave to her, so she's running Facebook ads as part of her business. And I was asking her about her numbers, and she wasn't super clear on what her numbers were. She knew a few of them, but the numbers that she was giving me around like the success of the Facebook ads, I was like, let's dive into them. And I could feel that she was uncomfortable about it. And when we uncovered with the numbers was that her Facebook ads were really actually working. Like her return was insane. And so I was like, why are you not just throwing more money at your Facebook ads? Like double your spend, triple your spend, and you'll just like double your business revenue. And it made her very uncomfortable. And so what she came back to with the call, like on the call the following week, was that her ads had been working for like over a year. And the reason that she wasn't just throwing more money into this system, this cash cow that is already working, was because she's actually afraid of managing more money. And so she was just keeping herself. It's insane because like it literally in the next 30 days, she'll probably double her business because it's like taking one foot off the brake pedal and you already have your foot on the gas. She doesn't have to work double the amount of hours. She just has a system that's working, but she was holding herself back because she secretly believed, and part of it is like, I'm worried I'm going to be judged by my friends. Part of it is I'm worried about managing more money. But when we create the tools and part of the work that I do with women is I give you the tools and the strategy to be able to manage your money really simply and really well. So you're no longer afraid of managing more money, right? You're no longer worried about it. One of my other clients showed up this week and she's like, oh my God, it's the first time in 20 years I'm not avoiding my taxes. It feels so good. She's like, things are just like done and dusted and sorted. I was like, taking ownership of your money feels really liberating, but we think that it's going to be this giant chore. And so when you step into, okay, what am I believing about the idea of earning more? What am I secretly believing that's actually leading me, for my client? She had no idea that she was actually stopping herself from just scaling her Facebook ads a year ago. She wasn't even aware that that belief was operating. So it was showing up in like an inaction that she could have just been taking. And so that's the beauty of when you shift a belief, you often don't even need another strategy. You don't need to work double the amount of hours. Just the subtle things that you're doing actually allow your income and your wealth and your net worth to really scale to superior levels.
Yeah, I love what you were saying about the idea behind the money belief. Like, we can scare ourselves. We get really scared because, well, maybe I'm not. If like you were saying, if I make that money, people are going to think different of me. And that might happen. I mean, that can very well happen that
Yeah.
people will look at you differently. But stopping yourself from doing something is you're basically keeping yourself stuck in a pattern because of the fear of being rejected by those people in your life that are judging you based on
Mhm.
you scaling your business or making more money. And I really love that you were talking about that, the fear of managing more.
Mhm.
Because what does that say about me? Am I capable? Am I going to do a good job? Am I going to mess up? And all of those things can come into question, but you'll never know the answer unless you take a step and do it. So I love that you brought that up. And I actually wanted to go a little step further into that, like shift for a moment to the emotional side of money, because it can be so emotional when, our patterns, they can reflect a deeper emotional or self-worth challenge for us because, how we start looking at there's something about spending and earning and, putting yourself out there and making more, bigger waves, if you will, or just making something different, something bigger. You strive for more. And I think there's that emotional side to it that people like, again, the fear comes in, but then there's that emotional side to it where it's like that can keep you stuck. So for many years, for me, money was so emotional because I always felt that money was a struggle. Money wasn't there to support me. And so whenever I would make more money, I found a way to spend more money. It's kind of like what you were talking about in the very beginning with, it was part of your job, like what you were doing because you had to, have this way of life, this lifestyle with what you were doing for a living. But for me, I always felt like this is the way I grew up. just from what I saw, what I witnessed, and what I learned, that I always felt that it was a struggle. So every time if I had money, I was always finding ways to spend it. And if I spent money, I always felt regret afterwards. I mean, there is that emotional piece to it. So have you ever found your clients have an emotional connection to money in a way similar to like what I explained?
So
Yeah.
your relationship to money and everything you do with money is always driven by what you believe to be true. And so that, similar to what I was describing before. So let's just use your example. So you're believing money is a struggle. And when you tell yourself money is always a struggle, how do you feel?
I don't feel good, right? Because it's like
Yeah.
I can
What's,
feel it in my
yeah.
chest. It's
How do you
just
feel?
not good at all.
How do you feel? What's a feeling word?
A feeling word, I guess defeated would
Defeated.
be,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And so when you feel defeated, what do you do?
nothing, to be
Nothing.
honest.
Yeah. What else?
I guess I hold myself back from taking those steps, to actually go after more because I feel like there's the other idea of not deserving of it because of
Yeah. So
circumstances.
let's stay with this thought. That's a whole nother thought that you have. You have lots of
Yeah.
thoughts happening around money. But when you feel defeated, you don't go after making more money. Where does the overspending come from? Is that from the feeling of feeling defeated?
No, I think what that comes from is not trusting that it'll stick around. I mean, I don't feel that way anymore, but I used to feel that it wouldn't stick around. So I had to
Okay.
spend it before something else tried to
Okay.
take it away.
Okay. So that's a separate thing. So when you feel defeated, you are resigned about your business. You don't move it forward. You're in inaction. And what happens? The result of that is what? Make less money,
Yeah. Make
right?
less money. You don't build,
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah.
happens.
So if you were to believe, for example, instead of believing money is always a struggle, if you were to believe that money comes to me easily and I'm the kind of person that can build a business that makes me lots of money, how do you feel?
Well, that's empowering. And
Empowered.
that, yeah,
Empowered. And when you feel
absolutely.
empowered, what do?
You take action. You actually feel confident enough to go out and start looking for the solutions,
Yeah.
is
You
what
start
I've
looking for the
found.
solution, you solve whatever business problems you need, you create the marketing strategy, you get the clients, and the result of that is you make more money. So your relationship to earning money, that's one example of your relationship to earning money is dictated and driven by what you believe to be true. And it is directly translated in the amount of cash that hits your bank account. And now let's take your other example, the overspending. So you're believing that money is going to go. Money is just going
Mhm.
to go away anyway. What did you actually say? What was the exact phrase?
Before something else came along to take it away. That's, I
Something,
think, what
yeah.
I
So
have
something
said.
is going to take away my money. And when you tell yourself something is going to take away my money, how do you feel?
Oh my gosh. It's when I'm bringing myself back to that, the way I used to feel, it doesn't feel good because I remember
Yeah, but how do
I
you
want
feel?
to like hang on to it. Like I
Yeah,
just feel,
how do you feel?
ooh, it's a great question. I mean,
Scarce. It sounds like scarce.
it's scarcity mindset and it's
Scarce
almost
and
like
fear. Yeah,
the fear of it. The
fear.
fear that it's going to go, but the fear that if I don't spend it the way I choose,
Yeah,
something else is going to take it,
yeah.
And that's what I
So when you're
felt.
feeling afraid, you overspend. When you overspend, then you have less money. And it's so interesting, right? You were afraid that the money was going to go, and you've literally created a situation where the money evaporates because of what you're believing. So now just imagine you have the exact same money in your bank account, and instead of believing all the money is going to evaporate, you just believe, I'm the kind of person that can manage money and my money always compounds.
Yeah.
Well, when you tell yourself that story, how do you feel?
Of course you can I know that I have been telling myself that story and it makes me feel like I have the ability, I am capable,
Capable. Yeah, I
no
love it.
matter
Capable.
what,
So I'm capable. And so when you feel the feeling of capable, what do you do?
But if I'm feeling capable, I'm going to go out and take action. I'm going to find ways to make more money.
Yeah, and you also manage money. Like when it comes to
Yeah.
managing your money, you manage money well. You don't overspend. When you're feeling capable, you don't overspend from a place of fear. You just are a good steward of money. And so what
Yeah.
happens is your money just compounds. Like more of your money stays and your money compounds. You're just using it responsibly. And so the exact same money hitting your bank account, like completely different results, just dictated by your thoughts. And so your question, just that was a very long explanation, but your question was about emotions around money. Your
Yeah.
emotions are created by what you're believing, and you can just
Hmm.
change that belief like that.
Yeah.
Like, do you see the
Yeah,
exact same scenario?
absolutely.
We just change your feeling about money just by
Oh,
changing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, the one thing I can say is that I feel so much more calm because before I'd be checking how much I had all the time. And now I just am confident and comfortable. I'm not afraid. I mean, that was huge for me because as I said, you go by what you've lived, what you've learned, that's been patterned for so long. And then, having to unlearn a lot of those things and understand and be okay that money is not the root of all evil. It's just how people use money can be evil, right? And so that's what I had to learn that. But anyways, yeah, no, I appreciate that you answered that question because I really wanted to bring that up. And like I said, I found it extremely hard for myself in the very beginning and it's only been like maybe the last 10 years, especially, I've been a coach now for just over 6 years. But I had just 10 years ago, I still had those money beliefs and had to really unpack those and really face like why those things were happening, like why I was thinking the way I was and feeling the way I was around money and having to really take a look back, like where did this start? So I love the fact that you did that, which I think will now I kind of transition us into what you're doing because you have created something for women, the Money Mastery Method, and it's known for making wealth building simple and accessible. And
Mhm.
one of the things that you talk a lot about is the use of energy. It's important because it's the energy that helps us use our time more efficiently. That's what I talk about, I should say. So, with that being said, what's your approach around the idea that not just to earn more, but to protect your well-being is as your income grows, using your energy? Because I believe, let me just bring this, I guess, more into context. I believe that the use of your energy really impacts how you use your time. And I believe how you use your time is also going to affect your wealth building. So with that being said, what's your approach around that idea about using your energy wisely when it comes to wealth building?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think so many high achievers are really programmed and operating from a default place of like, I'm going to solve a problem by overworking. And when you're used to your overworking getting you a lot of results, like making you a lot of money, you're like, okay, I'm just going to do more of that. And it's actually one of the biggest roadblocks I see successful women fall into is avoiding their investment portfolio for prioritizing trying to earn more money and overworking in the process. And so everything that I teach women, and I can share with you exactly what the pillars are of it, is to focus your time and energy on the highest impact, highest leverage things you can do. So, for example, one of the big things we teach in my program is I teach you how to invest. I teach you how to build an investment portfolio that scales you to 8 figures without spending more than an hour a year on it. I teach you how to fire your financial advisor. There is no higher value thing you could ever do with your time than spend a couple of hours setting up a portfolio that you just contribute to over time that scales to 8 figures, right? There's no client you could sign. There's no partnership you can build. There's no thing that you could do in your business that would ever make you that much money. So that is like the highest leverage thing you can do, but it's the last thing that people want to do. They're just head in the sand about it because they've been socialized to believe that investing is really complicated and the finance industry lies to you about everything. So it's normal, but that's the single highest impact thing you can do. So when you talk about optimizing your energy and making sure your energy is being very efficient, if I tell you you could build 8 figures by spending 6 hours setting up a portfolio and then it would take you an hour a year to manage, that's like a really great use of your energy. And I think
Mhm.
the other thing is that, so the other two pieces that I work on with women, aside from the mindset stuff, is scaling your income very efficiently and managing your money. Well, scaling your income efficiently, exactly the example I gave with one of my clients this week. What we worked on there was a tiny tweak for her business. And for everyone's business, it looks different. For another client of mine, she just doubled her rates. It's like, how can I make more money in my business, more impact without exhausting myself and working more hours? So, what does that next level look like for you? And the last piece around managing money, again, closing the gaps in your spending and having a very simple system to help you get clarity on exactly where the flow of your money is going. If you're earning, and this happens all the time, I talk to women earning 300 grand a year and they literally aren't saving any of it. So again, the investment portfolio is insanely important. Scaling your income without working more hours is important. But closing those gaps is insane because you could easily put, 6 figures back in your pocket this year by just not frittering it away, by just having clarity and not from a place of you can't spend or from restriction, but just from a place of, is the shit that I'm buying aligned with where I want to be going? And when you know where your money is going, when you have a system that manages it, you get to decide, okay, I can see that this 10 grand is actually going to these places. And when you can see the impacts of, would I rather that go to my investment portfolio? Would I rather that go to something, in future? And you can see how the math breaks down. It just becomes so clear where you actually want to be spending your money. Do you need that, the sixth Chanel bag that comes in a different color? Or realizing that if you were to put that $1,000 toward your portfolio and it would actually grow to be 16,000 effortlessly, would you still buy the bag? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It doesn't, there's no right or wrong. But it gives you, just closing those gaps, it gives you the most efficient system for making and managing all of your money, which is the most efficient system for your energy as well, because you want to be able to spend more time with your friends, with your family, with your, just doing self-care. You don't want to be having to spend all your time hustling for trading hours for dollars.
Yeah, I really like that, what you were saying. I think that one of the things I wanted to ask you about, and I think we kind of touched on it a little bit already, is that there is the fear of earning more. And there's also that fear of being selfish or greedy for wanting more, wanting to earn more and have that financial freedom. Maybe there's that worthiness that might come in. I don't know. But how do you help a woman who wants more? She wants that financial freedom. She might fear or have that fear of not doing it right or investing right or how to do all of that. The money mindset, obviously. How do you work with women if they feel uncomfortable owning the desire for more? How do you help them shift from that guilt to wanting that to more grounded power?
Yeah. So what are you going to do with more money? If I
Are
were
you
to give you,
asking me the
yeah,
question?
yeah. What,
Yeah.
just as an
Yeah,
example,
yeah.
because you're probably a reflection of all
Oh
of these.
gosh,
What are you
yeah.
gonna do
I
with your money?
mean, there's just so many things that I want to do, but I mean, one of the things really truly is to have that more freedom to travel because I
Mhm.
think the financial freedom gives you that freedom to travel more
Yeah,
without
without,
worrying like you don't have the money, right? Or to be able to, spend, I'm in Mexico, as I told you, but all of our family is in Canada. My goal is at some point to live a few months, a year in Canada and have our home base here in Mexico because that's just what I want. This is the lifestyle that I've chosen and I love. To be able to, there's things that I want to do philanthropically, that I don't know what that looks like, but I'm a huge
yeah,
animal advocate and I want to be able to support people who do, work with animals, whether that's people who are rescuers or people who board animals just because they're taking care of them for other people. I want to be able to find a way that I can support the people out there that are supportive of animals, take care of them, and they just have that heart center. So, I mean, there's
yeah.
so many different things that I want to do,
Yeah.
and money
So
actually helps that.
yeah, every single time I ask a woman what she's going to do with more money, without exception, at some point she mentions giving back or impacting others. Or it was the second thing you mentioned was spending time closer to your family. And the third thing you mentioned was giving back philanthropically. Now, you don't need to want to give more money for you to be able to deserve it. Like that's not necessarily what I'm saying. But I share that because so many women believe that there's something wrong with them earning more. And it's fascinating, or that they're selfish for wanting more. It's like fascinating how many women actually want to give so much of their money to other people and contribute to causes or people in society or their family members or their community with more money, right? Like who is more deserving of more money than you? It's crazy. But the other thing, and again, I share that with caution because I don't believe that you need to give philanthropically or share money with your community in order for you to be worthy of having it. Even if you didn't want to give a single dollar to anyone ever again, you deserve to have money. You deserve to have as much money as you desire, and there's nothing wrong with it. Here's why. Because the idea that there is something wrong with you having more money is fundamentally based on a scarcity belief that the amount of money in the world is finite. That if you have more, it means somebody else has less, which is crazy. That just isn't true, right? You can have millions of dollars and it doesn't impact, unless you decide to give it, how much money other people have. The money that you make is a reflection of the value you're delivering in the world, the impact that you're having to other people. I would be making $0 if I wasn't changing people's lives. I would be making zero money if I wasn't having an impact for other people in a way that they wanted to pay me for it over and over and over again. And people want to pay me more money because I create more value for them. They pay me a fraction of the value that I help them create in the world. And so do you, and so does everyone else, right? Otherwise, no money would exchange hands. And so I think it's really important to ground into that reality of when you have more, it doesn't mean other people have less. And in fact, when you have more, it is a reflection of the fact that you have contributed more to other people. The same is true if you have a job in corporate, right? You get paid more money in corporate because you're more valuable to the company, because the work that you do for that company, they create 10 times more value. Otherwise, you would be out of a job immediately.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And I think that's just, again, comes down to mindset. And I'm sure and you obviously do a lot of work with women about that. It really is just kind of just going back and just going through all of the things that we've learned. And that's just because that's just life. Our environments teach us. And it's just now that we're older and we have access to people like yourself, we can actually say, okay, this is how I'm thinking, and have someone like you come along and say, but that doesn't have to be your truth. That could have been your truth, but it doesn't have to be anymore. And doesn't mean that it was, but it was for you, and it can change. This is just doing the work to help you to change that.
Yes, you can change. Sorry, I was just going to say, you can change
that.
You can change any belief in an instant, right? And so you maybe have spent a whole bunch of years, not you, but like somebody, maybe have spent a whole bunch of years telling yourself a bullshit belief. You can change it tomorrow, right? The question isn't whether it's true or not. The question is believing that serving you and the life that you want to have? Or do you want to tell yourself something different? If you want to be really wealthy, then telling yourself the story that being wealthy means you're bad, it's not going to help you get there. And it's not going to feel good if you do, right?
Yeah.
So just change it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I know it sounds so simple, just change it. But I think it's probably one of the hardest things for people to do, to just change. I always say, change your mind, change your life, or change your brain and change the way you think. And your focus starts going towards other things that are more empowering to help you, and changing from always focusing on the problem, instead looking for the solutions instead, takes you away from being in that lower vibration and takes you into a higher vibration. So yeah, so I appreciate this. So I have a final question. It's a two-part question. So if you need me to repeat anything, please let me know. Many entrepreneurs' success isn't just about building a business. It's about creating lasting wealth and freedom. So the first part of the question is, how has your definition of success evolved as you've grown personally and financially? And then the second part is, what's one powerful money move you believe every woman should make to secure her future and expand her impact?
Great question. So how my definition of success has changed over the years is, I used to define success by societal benchmarks. I was always trying to check a box for someone else, like to feel good enough. It was always coming from a place of like, I don't feel good enough until. And so when I was younger, that was getting straight A's in school. And then it became making a shit ton of money in my corporate career. And my definition of success now, it's fascinating, right? Because I am making more money than I've ever made in my life, right? It's not like I'm making less money, but my motivation behind it is different. Like I wake up every day and I'm motivated by the impact that I'm making in the world. I'm motivated by the ability to live a life of true freedom, where I've been surfing every single day for the last week. And I surf at 4:30 in the morning because I want to get in there before the crowds. But I surf and then I spend my days like having incredible impact that I'm excited for and elated for, to scale my business in the world, because it means I'm serving more women. And so my definition of success is really internally driven versus externally driven? And then the answer to your next question is very simple, and you guys can probably figure out what it is. Every single woman everywhere should just start an investment portfolio. And if you do not have investments, you must reach out to me. It's insane. This will take you a couple of hours to set up. It will create generational wealth for you and your family. It is an absolute non-negotiable and necessary thing. Like, you cannot just head in the sand until you get to retirement. I have friends of my parents that are now reaching retirement age, realizing they can't afford to stop working. And that can be solved. But the sooner you get started, the more your money just compounds. Like, you can do a lot with a very small amount of money. Even if it's $50 a month, I have clients that are investing tens of thousands every month, and it's like you get there very rapidly. And there's no reason why every single woman in the entire world should not be doing this. And if you do this now, you like literally shift a generational pattern around, like, your children will be millionaires.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's
I love
crazy.
that. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Kristen, thank you very much for spending time with me today and sharing your journey from the world of high stakes finance and to the powerful work that you're actually doing now. I love the fact that you are focusing on women. Not that men aren't important, but I always feel like women seem to be that glue to the family, and they're the nurturers, but they're also that glue. And I find a lot of the time that women also put themselves last. And so I think it's really important that there are people out there that are working with women to help bring us up, because then there's a ripple effect when women are stronger mindset wise, financially, to the things that they're doing in the world. And I think it's because they need to be reminded that they're just as important as all of the people that they put above themselves. So I really appreciate that you do the work that you do. And I appreciate the way you broke things down, putting me on the spot. I love that. And your perspective on wealth, energy. Thank you so much for the emotional part as well. I really, truly appreciated that you went into that with me. I know that what we've talked about today is going to land deeply with the women that are listening to this. So thank you again for being here with me.
Thank you so much for having me and for doing incredible work in the world. It is such a gift to be here with you.
Oh, thank you so much. And to our listeners, if you'd like to connect with Kristen directly and learn more about her work, you can find her contact information in the show notes. Remember, every step you take toward financial clarity and personal alignment supports you in staying grounded as you move through your entrepreneurial journey, building a life and business that reflects your values, expands your impact, and feels honest and free every step of the way. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep believing, and keep designing your extraordinary life one day at a time. Thank you for joining me on Her Extraordinary Life by Design. I hope you've been inspired and empowered by the incredible stories shared on this show. If you enjoyed this episode and the conversations we've had, I would greatly appreciate if you could take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback and support mean the world to me, and it will help others discover the podcast and join our empowering community. Remember to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Together, we can continue to learn from these amazing women, uncover their extraordinary journeys, and be motivated to create our own lives by design. Thank you again for tuning in. Until next time, stay empowered and keep shaping your extraordinary life one day at a time.
Ever thought about starting your own podcast?
Do you have a business or a message you want to share with the world?
Well, now it's easier than ever with Electricast. Hi, I'm Mark Netter.
And I'm Peter Rafelson. We're the founders of Electricast Media.
Whether you want to start a new podcast or already have one, join Electricast to grow your audience, monetize your content, and build your community.
With our simple sign-up, you get free promotion, world-class analytics, premium ads, and personal support.
Go to electricast.com and join our community today.
Electricast. Transform your influence.
Electricast. I'm Iris, host of Or Whatever Movies and the forthcoming Powers of Darkness podcast. For the better part of a decade, we've been unraveling a literary mystery that begins with a strange version of Dracula. Yes, that Dracula. It's a different story, imbued with a potentially insidious agenda. What we've already found so far reshapes what we thought we knew, but the investigation isn't over. Support our efforts to finish what we've started and bring the full story to light. Go now to Kickstarter.com and search up Powers of Darkness to learn more. Coming soon on Electricast, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Electricast. Electricast.